like better thing make I see. That is one popular saying amongst Nigerians. And this is one ideology that a lot of people believe because nobody wants to suffer. Everyone wants to enjoy. And this leaves us with a search for meaning and happiness in life. Welcome to today's episode of Catholic Faith Forum. I am Nonso, and joining me today on today's episode are FriarJay and May.
Hey, it's good to be here.
We are here. Today we're going to be discussing a topic that I want to call the search for happiness, but modern day idolatry, a search for happiness. I hope people are like pumped to have the discussion.
Yes.
My pump level is growing. It's getting.
We are not moving until it gets 100. Me.
Okay. I'm ready.
Shout pumped.
Don't go anywhere. When we come back from the short break, we'll get right into our discussion. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Catholic Faith Forum. I am Nonso, and joining me today are FriarJay and May, and together we'll be discussing modern day idolatry, search for happiness. So what do you people think when you hear modern day idolatry? Is this something you've heard before?
Yes, of course. There are a lot of things, but basically idolatry meaning worship, the worship of something. But because of the things in question, people don't think it's worship, but they call it more of an obsession with those things. So money, fame, power. But these are actually worship, because if you are given the time, the energy, the devotion that you should give to God to something that He has created, that's idolatry. That's worship of idols.
Yeah, I agree, completely agree with Father. And if you're giving your dedication, your time, your devotion, and you're basically worshiping something that is not God, it's a form of idolatry. So, and people think that it's all about creating an altar and then bowing down, even as much as your phones.
It's funny that once I was watching a football match, and the commentator had the guts to say, "Welcome to this other station, and we are here at the stadium where we're about to follow the religion of football." What?
Whoa! I didn't know that was a religion.
To them, is a religion because they actually worship
it. They will lick ground.
I've never heard of that until that day. I was really shocked.
Wow. So then we're changing the meaning of worship here to mean doing something, giving your time.
The truth is worship is a thing, and people have to understand that. But if you are not worshiping God, of course, the way God wants to be worshipped, you are turning that relation, that's attention to something else.
Yeah, have you seen the way some people carry their phones?
That's another thing.
Have you seen the way some people respect their phone? I'm saying respect because they actually respect their phones and they're usually like.
But then if it's expensive, you respect it.
I don't know about that.
I'm not saying that you should. I'm just saying that if you buy a phone of over 400 and something thousand,
why are you buying a phone of over 400 that phone?
Why would you want to do that to yourself?
Like if you fold and you be like, I hope it's not my phone that broke.
No, I hope it's my
leg.
I hope it's my leg.
Imagine that. So you see, sometimes people, of course, and that actually explains the idea of devotion. You are giving your time, your resources to something that you adore, or which eventually possesses you. Because that's the kind of thing it is. It ends up becoming an obsession for you, and you end up becoming possessed by what you own, what you bought with your own money.
Wow. Possession. Deep.
Yes,
so do you have examples of scripture that warns us against this?
Of course. The very first one is from Exodus chapter 19 and 20, where we see the Israelites arrive at Mount Sinai to collect the 10 commandments that should guide them. And while Moses is up there speaking with God for 40 days and 40 nights, they are there and they had already erected a golden calf to worship. Why?
Because they don't know what had happened to Moses, apparently.
I'm thinking maybe he was a 419 and he has decided to run for his life. But then that alone shows the incessant, you want to call it an obsession in each and every one of us to worship. John S. Mbiti would say that humans are notoriously religious.
I totally
we are notoriously religious. So it's either you're worshiping God or something else. And in many cases, a lot of people worship things that they don't realize they're worshiping.
Because for me, okay, you want to say?
No, continue.
Okay, for me, I always liken modern day idolatry with the way people worship celebrities nowadays.
That's another
thing.
And
for me, when I was growing up, I watched a lot of concerts, Michael Jackson, Beyonce, and all that. So when I watch people and the way they actually faint, my sister and I, we still watch. I'm like, why is this woman crying now? Like, I'm wondering, like, and then when I grew up, and I noticed that the same purging of emotion, the same amount of emotions they have when they are crying and yelling at Michael, they also do that when they get to church and they're under the outpouring of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, slaying in the Spirit.
Yeah, so you see them also doing the same kind of thing. So
they were under the spirit of Michael.
So there's a very thin line between your worship of God and the way you actually worship man and other things. Some people wake up in the morning and the first thing they do is to take their phones.
That's very
And that's true for a lot of people.
Some people don't even know that they do it.
And the thing is, if you don't realize, if you're not paying attention, it will creep up on you. Because my alarm is on. That's why I went for my phone. Okay, or I just have to just check the time, and from checking the time, you swipe, and there's something else.
Social media
notification.
Notification.
Social media is just funny that even if I'm going on social media, if I'm not watchful, if I say, oh, let me just go and do something, once I get there, I will do that thing and do thousands
so many other things.
Thousands of other
In fact, you start with other things. Then
also,
why did I even come here?
So, I know, even in the 10 Commandments, God says you have no other God before Him. Many of us, let me use us. We actually put things before God.
Many times.
A lot of things before God.
Of times.
And nobody God creates you.
Yes,
and we don't realize.
Like I said, it can creep on you. And anybody is susceptible to that. Nobody is exempt.
Nobody's above
What
it.
one has to be able to say, hey, what is happening here? I seem to be giving a lot of time to this person or to this thing or to this cause. Because sometimes there's a quote by Lecrae in one of his songs called Chase That. He said, let me tell you something better, or better yet worse. Chasing your own glory by doing the Lord's work. So sometimes you may even think you're doing God's work, but you're actually doing your own work. So in the end of the day, you think that you're worshiping God, but you don't even have time for the God that you're worshiping.
Exactly.
You are doing something else.
So what do you think could be the roots of this idolatry today in our modern day?
Each of us is created for something bigger than this world. And if we don't fill that vacuum with God, we see ourselves taking in things, feeling other things. And we are insatiable in those regards. We can never get it. Just imagine the first time you bought your current phone. The first time you took it out of the box and you peeled off the nylon, and then that 6 hours was the longest 6 hours of your life. Was the longest 6 hours of your life.
Phone, every 2 minutes, it's not full.
You will not put it on. Let me just put it on and just be seeing it.
So it's that way. But then after 1 week, the phone is not the same. After 2 weeks, it's worse than 1 week. After a month, in fact, you're looking at another person's phone.
You know, I watched a series once, and she has been saving up so much to buy a phone. When she finally got this phone, all her friends got the newer version of that phone. Oh my God. So it felt like she saw 2008 when everyone has moved on with their life.
And that's sad.
For her, it was just a waste.
That's really sad.
Like father said, we're just insatiable in nature.
We keep wanting to fill that vacuum. Because there's always a space. And if you don't fill it with God, you will fill it with something else.
And even I think this these manufacturers, like they know, I think they studied human beings so well that they know that
they're still studying.
They know that they studied also. They are constantly, they pay people to study people's behavior, consumer behavior. It's an actual thing.
The moment, let's say, iPhone 12 comes out, 13 is on the way. In fact, 13 is out here.
They're already out. They're just waiting to release
13 is out here.
Yes.
Then 14 is on that way. 15 is coming. And then some people have not gotten 6.
There'll always be something better.
Somebody has not gotten iPhone 6 and there's already iPhone 13. Exactly. So you can see, like, they know that human beings can never be satisfied. So just give them something better. So what are some forms of this idolatry that we see today?
We've mentioned some of them. Many. Electronic idolatry. There's money idolatry. That one is a very big thing. Money.
Cars.
You can't overemphasize it. I think we are obsessed with material things, and people still think that the more we have, the better we are. But you are not. A person is not.
Or the happier you
are. A person is not made secure or happier by what you have.
At all.
You are who God created you to be, in image and His likeness, and you are priceless.
Do not store treasures for yourself.
In this world, you're going to live it.
But I'm not going to say.
Say it. We want to hear it.
I'm going to say I would rather cry in a Ferrari.
You can cry in a Ferrari.
Show yourself.
But then nobody will be able to see or nobody will be able to console you. And when you do something to yourself, that's, well, like I said, it's all right. To each his own, to each our own.
So there are so many, even to weight loss. I know some people are so obsessed with
their weight,
with looking.
Or even fitness.
Yeah, fitness. With looking gaunt and I don't call it fit anymore. It's not looking gaunt because they go to the extreme.
Yeah.
Johnny Bravo thing.
It's funny that one of these celebrities said he actually modeled himself after Johnny Bravo.
Why?
And like,
Who
okay,
is that?
that's fine. No, I'm not.
Please,
maybe behind the camera. Maybe behind the camera. I don't want to. I don't want to shade him. You can guess, but I'll shade. I don't want it to be a shade because I like him to some extent too. So it's all right.
Okay, and funnily, some people can also worship. People think idolatry is all about worshiping the good things. You can also worship the bad things. I mean, like your troubles.
Mm-hmm.
The moment you start thinking like the world is on your head. You are Atlas. No, Atlas carry the globe. So when you start feeling like you're Atlas, then you start thinking about it constantly, you become that your problems become like
your
God to you, because every time you are always thinking about it. Every time.
And that's why Jesus will tell us in Matthew chapter 6 not to worry. Not to worry about anything, not about what you're going to eat or drink, because your Father knows you need these things. And when they become worries for you, like you said, they become your God. Because if you show your problems how small your God is, then your God becomes insignificant to it. But if you show how big your God is, then your worry becomes insignificant. So one has to really pay attention to that.
Nice one.
I think it's just I remember a priest said it's total abandonment
to God.
So when you give yourself wholly to God, then you notice that you will no longer become Atlas.
Cast all your burdens upon him.
The Lord, yeah.
But really, Atlas, he's so weird.
Yeah, well, of course, I think it's
it
also
was punished. The punishment. Yeah.
The Greek mythology.
So we're talking about worshiping your problems and then riches. Let's talk about riches. I said I want to cry in a Ferrari, but no, I don't want to cry in a Ferrari anyway. So let's talk about being successful. Some people are so obsessed with being successful. They just like the idea of having one degree in the bag, or degree bagged,
and often,
or you did this and bag.
And often it is to make up for something that they think they don't have. Yeah, they feel a sense of inadequacy. So if I can brag about the number of degrees I have, that is something that I can flaunt and use as a bragging right for something else that I don't have. And you find out that now this one is a pure shade. You find out that in universities or higher institutions of learning, you find professors who say, this person will not graduate with a first class, will not graduate with a first class. Good. So the idea is basically, I don't want this person to become like me, or I don't want this person to graduate and become a professor, because the person will now start rubbing shoulders with me.
Even another issue
that's a very big obsession, where you now start trampling on others.
In fact, when I was in school, I think I used to get angry at a lot of lecturers that do that. There was one of my lecturers that always does that. He just comes to class and will tell you that A is for God. I'm like, can you just teach and go away from
want to get to the top of the pyramid and make sure nobody else gets there.
Which is
how would you have gotten there? How would you have gotten there if nobody allowed you?
If you check, most of them didn't even get first class, so they just feel like nobody is worthy of a first class so far because they didn't get.
They use themselves as a measure, and that's sad.
Very
when
sad.
They're not good.
So now let's talk about some effects of idolatry today. I know one major effect is that it takes your attention away from God, because you're constantly thinking about, I want to look fit. You wake up very early in the morning, you don't do your morning devotion or pray to God or give
you hit the gym.
Yeah, you just hit the gym straight up. You start to work out, you eat, and some people even fast, but they're not fasting because they want to edify God.
No,
they do it because they want
hunger strike.
Hunger. They call it
AKA dieting.
Intermittent fasting.
It's not fasting. It's not fasting. Fasting already has a spiritual connotation. Whatever you're doing is either weight watch or weight loss.
Yeah, so they do those weight loss.
Food deprivation.
So they have this. So they do those things because of them. It's now for yourself, like we said. They're trying to satisfy your own needs. So that's one of the things that happen.
I think something also to attach to that is self-worship. It's self-worship. So my body is supposedly my temple. I have heard people use that expression before. So they're actually worshiping themselves. So if I look a certain way, I appear a certain way, I speak a certain way, then I feel better about myself, and I can flaunt that. I can use it I can put it up on the ground.
Good and actually feel good.
But that's not bad. But when it becomes an obsession, such that every blob of fat on your body is a sin, you have to somehow get it off. That's a problem.
Yeah, I like to look slim.
We're not talking about you. We're not talking to you.
I like to look slim, but I don't like. I'm more like I don't worship myself. I don't. Yes, I am not my altar.
Intermittent fasting.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, sure.
So, what are some other effects of modern day idolatry?
Deviating from the teachings of the church, deviating from teachings of God. Because when you start focusing on other things, you don't have time for the things of God. You hear people tell you, I can't pray. I can't pray for 5 minutes. But they can be in front of the TV for 2 hours. So that's a problem.
Being constantly distracted. You're supposed to be doing something. This is A. You want to do A. But then you've been on B for like 3 hours. You're like, let me do A. You come to A for 5 minutes. Go back to your distraction. So you're constantly distracted by something else. So you lose focus. Even what you're supposed to do, you can't do it because you are constantly doing something else that you are not meant to be in at that time.
And one effect of idolatry, modern day idolatry, is that you will end up putting God last in everything.
Of course.
So there's always, I think those kinds of people really live their lives in had I known. Because it's going to be like, oh, I wish I had done this earlier. You're always going to put God last. And when you put God last, you regret it.
God becomes an afterthought.
Yeah.
So other things.
Finally, I think seeing material things as God. So I am who I am because of what I have. And that's a very, very bad thing to focus on. Because you were here at some point, and you will leave those things that you met in this world and no more. So what you're going to take along with you is what you've been able to become as a child of God, not what you have been able to gather. Like, remember the rich fool in the gospel. Yeah.
And my dad told me a story once that there was a very rich man in Lagos, apparently it's a real life story, a very rich man in Lagos in Nigeria who never had time for God. He was always saying, I'll come to church later. I'll do it later. I'm waiting for this meeting. I'll do this later. I'll do this later. And he never did anything until he died. He didn't even have a time. So it was on his deathbed that he called a pastor, and then
at the last minute, really.
Just imagine the time. You'll be surprised. There are some people even till today who will tell you, well, before I die, if I sense I'm going to die, I'll go and call the father to come and hear my confession.
And before the man of God could come, he died.
Okay.
Yeah, so he knew he was going to die. Then he requested that, let this man come. And when the man was on his way, he died. So he never even got
he left it for the last minute.
He never did that. Never met God at any point because he was always busy. And that's one thing about worshiping. When you refuse to worship God, when you're worshiping other things, you deviate so much from the things of God. You give your time to other people. You don't have time for God. You're always busy. So what are some things that people can do when they notice they're already drifting from God and you need to get back to God?
Call yourself back. Be aware of yourself. Be aware of the things you do. And carry out self-evaluation. A daily self-examination is very important. Constantly. An unexamined life, as one of the philosophers would say, is not worth living. So learn to examine your life and make necessary changes where necessary.
Also, surrender yourself to God. Make sure that God is at the beginning of your life, at the beginning of everything that you want to do. Don't put him last ever. If not, you will definitely lose it. So just make sure God is at the center and at the forefront of everything you intend to do.
Yeah. Do everything in moderation. Moderation is the key. Don't do too much. And don't say you are running away from technology because they are obsessive. You have to learn control. Don't let the things that you have or the things you own to control you.
Exactly. Nobody's saying you can't make money.
Yeah.
Now, those people that there was a family when we were younger, they used to buy TV in their house that they don't want their children to learn bad things. I'm like, it doesn't. The TV has purposes apart from the things that they. So I'm like, okay, that's so nice. They will not enjoy it. They will not.
I find this very funny.
That's
I'm
very
serious.
Funny.
They didn't have a TV.
So one thing.
So they end up sneaking to people's houses to go and watch TV and come. So they will still find it somewhere.
The thing about people doing that is that your children would end up learning these things from outside.
They end up learning it in the home.
Those places are not even the best places for your children to learn things. Imagine when your child, I remember a friend of mine gave me a story of how they used to watch TV from their neighbor's house
window.
Window rather. So, and there was this man that came back home, an elderly man, not elderly, but older than they were. And they were young, 12, 11, 10. And then the man came back home and sat in front of his TV and was watching pornography. And he slept off.
And
like he slept over, and then it was so loud that the children were watching. And they watched and they were just looking. They looked for a while, and then they started wondering what was happening, and they got tired because they were children. So they just got but the thing, they were children, but they already knew things. They already knew all these kind of things that were happening because they were already getting to their teenage years. So they watched and they were tired and they left. So if they had TV in their houses, there won't have been a need for them to go to their neighbor's house to go and peep and then watch something very inappropriate that was not meant for them.
Exactly.
So one great thing people should learn too is contentment. Be contented with what you have.
Value what you have.
Yeah, value it. Just know that whatever you have is good for you and it's enough.
And also detachment. If you learn to be generous with what you have, you learn not to be attached to anything. Like I always tell people, if you have a pair of shoes that is in your cupboard for more than 3 months, it is no longer yours. You don't need it. Give it out.
Give it to someone that needs
Give
it.
it
Because there
out.
are people walking about without shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. True. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. I really liked it.
Thank you. It's
You're
beautiful.
welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
I mean, what
Please,
is
I
it?
have pride. What
Why are you
do
giving me queen?
Thank you for having me on the show.
Wait. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a beautiful episode. So I want to just leave you with a few tips. If you think you're moving away from God and you need to go back to God, there are a few questions you should ask yourself. Questions like, do I love or treasure anything or anyone more than God? Do I prioritize anything or anyone before God? Does anything bring me pleasure more than God? Do I place my identity in anything over my status as a child of God, which is very important? Then do I look to anything or anyone to meet my needs instead of God? Do I seek fulfillment or satisfaction from anything outside of God? And finally, do I seek comfort outside of God? These are questions you should ask yourself. And when you ask yourself these questions, you might not get the answer immediately, but then if you think about it, you realize that there's certain places in your life where you're already departing and moving away from God. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. Thank you. Thank you, FriarJay. I always like to have you on my show.
Thank you very much.
I don't like to have you on your
sorry,
show.
I'm very sorry. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining us. We're not going anywhere until we'll meet with Collins or Know Your Faith. Stay with us.
Thank you very much, Nonso. Hi guys, and welcome to another awesome episode of Know Your Faith series. I am Collins, and today we'll be talking about a devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary. Now, we've talked a lot in previous episodes, and I'm very sure as Catholics you'll be tired of saying this to other people. But I just want to clarify once again that only God or Christ himself is actually adored or worshipped or glorified. Now, there's a huge difference between honoring someone or having a devotion to someone and then deciding to adore or worship the person. A huge difference. And so on today's episode of Know Your Faith series, we'll be talking about what are the characteristics of a true devotion to Mary. So, first things first is I think this is something that we should know, especially as Catholics, but it's funny that a couple of us don't actually know that even the rosary itself is from the Bible, as we see in Luke chapter 1 from verse 25 to 26. The first part of the rosary is a word said by Angel Gabriel, and we know he was sent from God. And the second part of the rosary are words from Elizabeth, who was filled with the Holy Spirit at the time she said those words. So we can see that even the Bible backs devotion to Mary. Now, the church, every Saturday is actually devoted to Mary, which is why you hear first Saturday devotion, second Saturday devotion to Mary. Depends, but naturally all Saturdays are actually devoted to, mainly for devotion to Mary. Now, today, like I said, we'll be talking about the characteristics of a true devotion to Mary. So the first is that a true devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary is interior. Now, what this means is that it comes from the mind and heart. It must come from a true place of, inner peace, come from a place that is actually sincere, and not just because you think. There's a difference between doing something because you actually want to and doing something because you think it's an obligation or because they've said you must. So it's very important that for your devotion to be true, you need to come from a place of, that inner peace. Number 2, true devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary is born out of tenderness. By this, I mean you must actually trust in what you're devoting yourself to. So you must trust fully in the Blessed Virgin Mary. You cannot say that you want to pray through her and you don't even believe that she can intercede for you. So faith in this case is actually very important. You must trust and believe that the Blessed Virgin Mary will intercede for you. Number 3 is that true devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary is holy. Like any other devotion, really, even to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. It's important that it comes from a holy place. And once again, linking to the first thing I said, your interior. Make sure that you are at peace and you actually want to give a true devotion and not just want to just get something done with. To take 15 minutes, let me just sharply say my rosary. Those thinking then it will mean that you're just doing it because people said Saturday we'll pray your rosary. but it's important that it comes from a place, you know, the interior, and also make sure that it's actually holy. Number 4 is that true devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary is constant. Like I said before, the church has dedicated Saturdays as, you know, a day of devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary. So it's important that, you know, we constantly give devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary, as it strengthens us in doing good, and it also prevents us from frivolously abandoning our devotional practices. I think it's important. It always helps when, these things are not easy, so it always helps when you join like a pious society. There's Legion of Mary, there's Block Rosary, and there's so many others. Or you could just join your parish whenever it is that they have their own Saturday devotion to our Blessed Virgin Mary. And the final characteristics is that true devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary is disinterested. By this, it is not something you do because of your own interest. You don't do it simply because I want. So let me now, Nigerian time, let me reason Mother Mary now. You get. So it's that's not a devotion. You're not being devout about it. It's coming from a selfish point of view. So you have to be able to have devotions to Mary from a disinterested point of view. Have it from a clean and sincere heart. You know, you can devote yourself to so many things. You can pray to Our Lady of Nigeria. I mean, the country is a mess, so it's very, very important that you actually try to pray from a selfless place, so that you can actually be able to get your prayers answered. So to summarize, guys, the 5 points that I gave for a true characteristics of a true devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary is: 1, it must come from an interior place. 2, must be born out of tenderness. 3, must be holy. 4, constant. And 5, come from a disinterested or selfless point of view. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And let's get back to Nonso on CFF.
Welcome back. This is Catholic Faith Forum. Thank you so much, Collins, for that. Before we go, our saint for the week is Saint Francis of Assisi. He's a patron saint of the environment, as named by Pope John Paul II due to his love for the environment. He was born in Assisi, Italy in 1181. Francis enjoyed a very rich, easy life growing up because of his father's wealth and the permissiveness of the times. From the beginning, everyone, and I mean everyone, loved Francis. He was constantly happy, charming, and a born leader. As a youth, Francis spent money lavishly and partied a lot. Serious illness brought him to see the emptiness of life. His search for conversion led him to the ancient church at San Damiano. While he was praying there, he heard Christ on the crucifix speak to him, "Francis, repair my church." Francis assumed this church with a small c, the crumbling building he was in. Soon Francis started to preach. He was never a priest, though he was later ordained as a deacon under his protest. He preached about returning to God and obedience to the church. His conversion reached the climax when he embraced a leper he met along the road. Wow. Soon thereafter, he began to care for the sick and gave his money to the poor. He committed himself to prayer, humility, actively preaching the gospel, and service to the poor. Slowly, companions came to Francis, people who wanted to follow his life of sleeping in the open, begging for garbage to eat, and loving God. With companions, Francis knew he now had to leave some kind of direction of this life. So he opened the Bible in 3 places. He read the command to the rich young man to sell all his goods and give to the poor, the order to the apostles to take nothing on the journey, and the demand to take up the cross daily. Here's our rule, Francis said, as simple and as seemingly impossible as that. Francis' final years were filled with suffering as well as humiliation, praying to share in Christ's passion. He had a vision, received the stigmata, the marks of the nails and the lance wound that Christ suffered in his own body. He is credited with designing the first Christmas crib, and he died on October 4th, 1226 at the age of 45. Francis is the founder of the Franciscan Order and the patron saint of ecologists and merchants. Thank you so much. I hope you learned a lot about St. Francis of Assisi. Don't forget to watch this episode and other episodes on our YouTube channel at Dominican Media Present, and also subscribe and hit the like button and share our content with your friends and family. Also, don't forget to join our conversation this Tuesday on Twitter with the hashtag CFF Chatroom on Twitter. And our question for this Tuesday by 7 p.m. is, what do you find yourself spending the most time on? I repeat, what do you find yourself spending the most time on? Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Till we come your way next time, keep being saints
in jeans and shirts.
Bye.